I never imagined that the quiet sound of a fork tapping a wine glass could make my entire world collapse. But that's exactly how it happened. One soft, delicate ting, echoing through my mother-in-law's polished dining room in Littleton, Colorado, became the moment I'd remember for the rest of my life. The moment everything I'd tried so hard to hold together finally shattered. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can see the warm glow of the chandelier reflecting off the crystal, the way every conversation at the table died instantly, and the cold wave crawling up my spine as I realized her toast wasn't going to be a toast at all. But to understand why that moment broke something inside me, I need to explain how I ended up sitting at a Thanksgiving table where half the people pretended to like me, and the other half didn't even bother pretending. It had snowed lightly that afternoon, just enough to cover the neighborhood rooftops with a perfect white layer, the kind of snow that looks pretty from inside a warm house, but becomes a nightmare when you're carrying dishes up a long driveway. I had made mac and cheese from my grandmother's recipe, the one that always made my family feel loved. I balanced the dish carefully as my husband, Ethan, walked ahead of me holding a bottle of wine his mother liked. I didn't like that wine. It was bitter and expensive for no reason, but I never said anything because I wanted his family to like me. When we reached the door, I remember Ethan turning to me with that small, nervous smile he always wore around his family. Like he was preparing for battle but trying not to show fear. He leaned in close, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "It'll be fine. Just breathe. Just breathe." Those 2 words had become our Thanksgiving tradition. Every year, right before stepping into his family's home, he'd say them, and every year I believed him. Or at least I tried to. His mother opened the door before we even knocked, wearing the same deep red sweater dress she wore every Thanksgiving, the one she always bragged about buying in New York. She looked me up and down like she always did slowly, from my shoes to my forehead, before giving a stiff smile. "You're late," she said. We were exactly on time. Ethan stepped in quickly to hug her, and she melted into him, her voice softening instantly. "Oh, sweetheart, I missed you so much. I wish you'd visit more often." She acted as if we didn't live 30 minutes away. When she finally acknowledged my existence again, she gestured vaguely toward the kitchen. "You can put whatever that is with the other dishes." "It's mac and cheese," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We already have mac and cheese." She said it like I had brought a bag of gas station sandwiches. "I didn't know," I murmured. She shrugged lightly. "Of course you didn't. And that was the start." A tiny cut, barely noticeable at first, but deep enough to sting. Inside, the house smelled like roasted turkey, cinnamon, and that fancy candle she always burned, the one that cost more than my entire Thanksgiving outfit. Family members roamed around Ethan's sisters, their husbands, a few cousins, his grandparents, everyone greeting each other loudly and warmly. Then, when they turned to me, their voices dropped to polite but not too warm tones. The difference was always obvious. I placed my mac and cheese on the counter, next to a beautifully plated version with truffle oil and breadcrumbs. Hers, of course. Mine looked like a poor cousin that didn't know it wasn't invited. While I tried to fix the foil, one of Ethan's sisters, Megan, approached me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Cute dish," she said. "Very homemade." I wasn't sure if it was a compliment or a warning. Ethan stayed close to me when we walked to the dining room. The long table was set with gold-trimmed plates, matching glasses, perfectly folded napkins, and place cards written in calligraphy. I scanned the table for my name, but I didn't see it until the far end right next to the children's seats. I swallowed hard. Seriously, but Ethan squeezed my hand under the table. "It's fine. I'll sit here with you. Your place is up there," I whispered. "With you," he replied. For a moment, I felt loved, protected, like none of the tension mattered because he chose me. But then his mother entered the room, and her presence swallowed every bit of warmth I felt. She cleared her throat dramatically. "Everyone, take your seats." My stomach twisted. I knew this tone. I had heard it every holiday, every dinner, every barbecue. Something was coming, something sharp. During the first part of dinner, she behaved in her usual way, subtle digs disguised as elegance. She criticized the way I served myself. Smaller portions look more refined. Corrected how I held my fork. "Ladies, hold it this way." And even told Ethan loud enough for everyone to hear, "You used to eat so much healthier before you got married." Each comment landed like a mosquito bite, tiny but relentless. At one point, she asked me what I was thankful for this year. I smiled politely and said, "Our new home. And for having the chance to grow our family someday." She raised her eyebrows. "Grow your family? Maybe start by growing your savings." A few relatives laughed under their breath. Ethan shifted in his seat. "Mom, that's not..." She ignored him. But the moment that would destroy everything hadn't happened yet. It came after the turkey was served, after the mashed potatoes were passed around, after people were finally relaxing and chatting. For a brief moment, the atmosphere felt almost pleasant. I remember taking a sip of water and thinking, maybe this year won't be so bad. Then I heard the sound, the crisp, clear tap of her fork hitting her wineglass. Ting. The table fell silent immediately. Even the kids stopped whispering. His mother rose slowly, her posture perfect, her expression soft in a way that always meant danger. "I'd like to say a few words," she began. I froze. Every year she gave a Thanksgiving toast. Every year it was harmless. But the way she was looking at me, it felt like she was sharpening a knife behind her smile. She lifted her glass slightly. "Thank you all for being here today. Family is the most important thing in life. Family is what guides us, shapes us, and keeps us grounded. Family is everything." Several heads nodded. "And sometimes," she continued, "we have to face the truth about choices that are concerning." My heart dropped. She looked directly at me. "I've stayed quiet for long enough," she said. "But since Thanksgiving is a holiday about honesty and reflection, I feel it's time to address something we all know but no one wants to say." I felt Ethan tense next to me. "Mom," he warned softly. She ignored him. "My son's marriage," she paused dramatically, scanning the entire table, "was a mistake." A breath caught in my throat. Someone gasped. Someone else dropped a fork. The room spun. She kept going. "He deserves better. He deserves someone who elevates him, not someone who holds him back. Someone who matches our family's values, not someone who drags him into a different lifestyle." We all see it. We all know it. And it's time to admit it. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. I felt every eye turn to me, some sympathetic, some embarrassed, some almost relieved that someone had finally said it. My mother's face turned pale. My father looked ready to explode. I could barely swallow. My mac and cheese suddenly felt stupid, childish, like a symbol of everything she hated about me. His mother took a slow sip of wine and set the glass down. "One day," she added, "Ethan will wake up and realize this. And when he does, I pray it won't be too late for him." I waited for Ethan to speak. But he said nothing. Absolutely nothing. He stared at his plate, jaw tight, fingers trembling slightly, but he didn't look up. Didn't defend me. Didn't stop her. The silence was louder than her insult. I felt myself break. Something deep, a quiet rupture. I thought about standing up, walking out, leaving the entire nightmare behind. But my legs wouldn't move. It was like my body had turned to stone. My mother tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "That was uncalled for." Ethan's mother shrugged. "Truth often is." I looked at my husband. Really looked at him. And for the first time since I met him, I saw fear, not fear of losing me, but fear of confronting her. And that hurt more than anything she had said. I whispered, barely audible, "Say something." He didn't. My throat burned with humiliation. My eyes stung. My hands shook under the table. Then his mother said one more sentence, one final dagger. She just doesn't belong in this family. That was when Ethan finally reacted, but not how I expected. Instead of standing up, instead of defending me, instead of even touching my hand, he closed his eyes tightly. And I felt something inside me collapse. But then, just when I thought the night was over and my marriage was over with it, Ethan's eyes snapped open. He pushed his chair back slowly, the legs scraping the floor with a sound that made everyone flinch. He stood up. For the first time in years, he didn't look scared. He looked angry. Really deeply angry. His mother's face drained of color. And that was the moment everything began to change. That was the moment his truth started rising to the surface. But what he said next, what he confessed in front of everyone, what he revealed about his mother, about the past, about us, it was the beginning of the most painful, transformative night of my life. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. And feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters here. And if this story resonates with you in any way, you can support the channel by buying me a coffee. The link is always in the description. When Ethan stood up, the entire dining room seemed to shrink. Every sound, the crackle of the fireplace, the hum of conversation, the clinking of silverware disappeared. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat as I stared at my husband, unsure of what he was about to do. His hands were clenched at his sides, his jaw tight, and for the first time since I'd known him, he wasn't trying to hide the storm behind his eyes. His mother sat frozen, one hand still resting on her wine glass, the other on the edge of the table as if she needed to steady herself. Her confidence, her armor seemed to crack for a split second. She tried to gather it back with a forced smile. "Sweetheart," she began softly, "sit down. Let's not turn this dinner into something uncomfortable." "Mom," he said sharply, and everyone stopped breathing. "Don't." The words sliced through the room like a blade. She blinked. "Don't what?" "Don't pretend this is normal," he said. "Don't act like you haven't crossed a line. Don't act like this was some kind of loving toast." His voice was steady, but I could feel the tremor underneath, the years of buried resentment pushing through. His mother stared at him, stiffening. I was being honest. He let out a shaky breath. "Honest, you humiliated my wife, on Thanksgiving, in front of her parents. In front of our entire family. Your wife," she repeated, emphasizing the word with a bitterness she didn't even try to hide. "The woman who—" "I'm warning you," he said. "Don't finish that sentence." My stomach twisted. I had never heard that tone from him. It was raw, final. His sisters were staring at their plates. His grandparents looked shocked. My parents were frozen, unsure what to do, clearly not wanting to escalate the situation, yet equally unwilling to accept my humiliation. His mother lifted her chin. "I'm your mother. I can say what needs to be said." "You're my mother," he replied. "But that doesn't give you the right to disrespect the woman I married." She scoffed. "Disrespect?" I stated facts. "No," he said, leaning slightly forward. "You attacked her, again, and I'm done pretending it's okay." "Pretending?" she repeated, eyebrows raised. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, pretending." The room shifted. My entire body tensed because I felt it. Something bigger, something old, something heavy was about to come out. Something he never told me. His mother's face paled. "Ethan." "Don't." He exhaled, a long, tired breath, and looked around the table before finally looking at me. His eyes softened with guilt. "I should have said something sooner," he whispered. "I should have defended you every time she made you feel small, and I'm sorry." My throat tightened. I didn't trust myself to speak. Then he turned back to his mother. "Do you know what I realized tonight?" he asked. "That you aren't going to stop. You're not going to suddenly become supportive. You're not suddenly going to accept her. Because this has never been about her at all. His mother stiffened again. Ethan, this has always been about control, he said, voice firm. About losing control of me. A murmur rippled around the table, his mother's lips pressed into a thin line. That's not true, she said quietly, but her voice trembled. Yes, it is, he replied. You've tried to control every part of my life since I was a kid. Where I studied, who I dated, what job I took. You even tried to decide who I should marry. That's not fair, she shot back, voice rising. I only wanted what was best for you. No, he corrected. You wanted what was best for you. His sisters exchanged glances. One of them looked like she wanted to interrupt but was too afraid. His mother shook her head, her voice turning cold. You're rewriting history, am I? He asked. Then let's talk about what you did with Emily. A stunned silence fell over the table. Emily. I had never heard that name before. His mother's face went blank, like a light had turned off behind her eyes. She swallowed hard. Ethan, she whispered. Don't do this. He ignored her. Emily was my girlfriend in college, he said, addressing the whole table. We dated for a year. She was a good person. She treated me well. And Mom loved her at first because she came from a family Mom approved of. His mother stared at him in horror. Stop. So when Emily and I talked about moving in together, he continued, Mom panicked. She slammed her hand onto the table. Enough, but he kept going. He looked at his sisters. You remember how Mom suddenly hated Emily out of nowhere? They looked away. Then he looked at me. She told me Emily was cheating on me, he said quietly. She told me she had proof. She even showed me messages. I felt my eyes widen. But she didn't cheat, he added. Those messages were fake. A collective gasp echoed through the room. My hand went to my mouth. Mom created a fake email address, he said, his voice barely above a whisper now, filled with so much disappointment it made my chest ache. She messaged herself pretending to be Emily, then showed me the messages as if they were screenshots. My head spun. I felt sick. His mother pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Ethan, please. Do you know what I did? He asked. I broke up with her. I blindsided her. She cried for hours. I walked away all because you manipulated me. His mother shook her head violently. I did it for your own good. No, he shouted. You did it because you couldn't stand the thought of me choosing someone who wasn't you. She flinched. A cousin whispered, Oh my God. Ethan rubbed his forehead. And that wasn't the only time. Every time I dated someone who might become serious, you found something wrong with her. Too loud, too quiet, too ambitious, not ambitious enough. Too emotional, not emotional enough. Literally, no one was ever right. His mother's voice broke. I didn't want you to get hurt. No, he said again. You didn't want me to grow up. A painful silence crawled across the room. His mother whispered, Why are you doing this to me? On Thanksgiving. Because you attacked my wife, he said. And you expected me to stay silent. Again. But I'm done choosing your comfort over her dignity. My heart squeezed so tightly I felt tears sting my eyes. He looked at me, then really looked. And the apology in his eyes almost broke me. You didn't belong in this family, he said, repeating his mother's words. Mom, she belongs with me. And if that means stepping away from this family to protect her, then that's what I'll do. His mother's breath hitched. Ethan, no, don't say that. But he kept going, like a dam inside him had burst. He turned toward the entire table. And let's stop pretending she's the only one who's been treated this way. Mom has pushed all of us around for years. She guilt-tripped Megan into canceling her move to Seattle. She told Claire her career was a phase and discouraged her from applying out of state. She's interfered in everyone's life. Megan's face turned red. Claire stared at the tablecloth, knuckles white. His grandmother whispered, Is this true? Their mother opened her mouth. but no words came out. She was unraveling. "I'm not a child anymore," Ethan said softly. "I'm not going to let you bully the woman I love because she doesn't fit into your perfect picture. She makes me happy. She supports me. She believes in me. She sees me. And I'm choosing her, every time." A tear slid down my cheek. His mother finally broke, her voice cracking. "I was trying to protect this family. Everything I've built. Everything I've held together." Ethan shook his head. "You weren't protecting us," he said. "You were controlling us." She covered her face, shoulders trembling. The room was silent except for her stifled sobs. After a long moment, Ethan reached for my hand, finally, openly, proudly, and said, "We're leaving." I swallowed a sob. "Ethan." He shook his head gently. "I'm not letting you sit here another second." As we stood, my mother rose too, then my father. Then unexpectedly Megan and Claire. His mother looked up, eyes red, devastated. "Where are you all going?" No one answered. The quiet truth hung in the air like smoke. Her grip had finally broken. We walked out together. Out of the dining room, out of the suffocating house, out into the cold Colorado night. Snow crunched beneath our feet as we made our way to the car, the air biting our cheeks. I could barely process what had just happened. When the doors closed and we were alone, Ethan exhaled shakily. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Tears spilled down my face. "Why didn't you tell me about Emily, about everything?" He rested his head on the steering wheel. "Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want you to think I was weak. Because I thought I could manage her. But I couldn't. Not anymore. Not after what she said to you." I touched his arm gently. "You weren't weak. You were conditioned." He looked up at me, eyes tired but finally free. "I'm choosing you. From now on, I'm choosing you." For the first time all night, I felt the warmth of something real, truth, unfiltered and raw, finally exposed. He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself cry, not just from pain but from release. Inside the house, voices rose, doors slammed, emotions unraveled. Outside, in the quiet snow, something new began for us. But that night wasn't over. Not even close. Because the next morning, his mother showed up at our house unannounced, and what she said on our doorstep became the moment that changed the entire trajectory of our marriage. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more people. And if you like to support the work behind them, you can always buy me a coffee. The link is in the description. And feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice truly matters here. I barely slept that night. Even after Ethan and I crawled into bed, fully clothed, exhausted from the emotional avalanche of the evening, my mind kept replaying every moment of the dinner, the sound of his mother's fork tapping the glass, the icy tone of her voice, the stunned faces at the table, Ethan finally standing up, his revelations, his choice. It all blurred together, but the ache in my chest didn't fade. I woke up early, long before the sun rose, and walked quietly into the living room. Outside, the snow from the night before had thickened, creating an untouched blanket of white. The world felt quiet, too quiet, like the silence before a storm. I poured myself a cup of coffee and wrapped my hands around the warm mug, trying to ground myself. Eventually Ethan joined me, dark circles under his eyes, hair messy from tossing and turning. He sat beside me on the couch in silence, and for a moment we didn't say anything. We didn't need to. Then he took my hand and whispered, "I meant everything I said last night." I nodded. "I know," he exhaled, his voice breaking. "I just wish it hadn't had to happen like that." Before I could answer, there was a loud knock at the front door, so abrupt and forceful that I jumped and spilled coffee on my sleeve. Ethan stood up slowly. "Stay here," but I was right behind him as he opened the door. There she was, his mother, standing on our porch. In the snow, barely dressed for the cold, hair messy, eyes red and swollen like she had cried the entire night. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of everything had crushed something inside her. She didn't ask to come in. She simply pushed past Ethan, walked into our living room, and stood in the center of it as if she no longer recognized the world around her. Ethan closed the door, jaw clenched. "Mom, what are you doing here?" She didn't look at him. She looked at me. "You've ruined everything." My stomach dropped. Ethan stepped in front of me instantly. "Don't talk to her like that." She laughed a hysterical broken sound. "Oh, of course. Of course you're defending her. You always defend her." "Always?" Ethan said sharply. Last night was the first time I ever did. That made her flinch. She looked around the room, eyes darting from the framed photos to the coat rack to the rug beneath her feet. It was as if she was searching for something familiar, something she could hold on to, but nothing was there. Everything had shifted. Finally, she sank onto the edge of the couch, covering her face with both hands. "I didn't sleep," she whispered. "Not 1 minute. I kept thinking about what you said. About Emily, about everything." Silence stretched between us. Then she lowered her hands and looked directly at me, not with hatred this time, but with something else. Something I had never seen in her. Fear. "I'm losing my son," she said weakly. "I'm losing my family." Ethan stood still, as if rooted to the floor. "You're losing us because of your actions, not because of her." His mother swallowed, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to let go." I felt a strange ache inside my chest. Because even though she had hurt me deeply, intentionally, I could see it now. She wasn't a monster. She was a woman terrified of being irrelevant, a woman who equated control with love, a woman who had never learned another way to express fear. Ethan walked closer to her. "Mom, love isn't possession. You can't keep me by destroying everything around me." She shook her head, looking lost. I know. But last night, hearing myself say those things, I don't even know why I said them. I felt you slipping away and I panicked. "That's not an excuse," Ethan replied softly. "But it's a start." His mother took a deep breath and turned toward me again. And then she said the last thing I ever expected to hear from her. "I'm sorry." The words were small, fragile, imperfect, but they were real. "I'm sorry for humiliating you, for judging you, for thinking you weren't enough for my son, for letting my fear ruin every chance I had to know you." My eyes burned. "And I'm sorry," she continued, her voice breaking, "for the things I said about your marriage. It wasn't true. I said them because I was scared. Scared of being replaced. Scared of losing the one person who always came back to me." Ethan sat beside her slowly. "Mom, I was always going to be in your life. I wasn't leaving you." She looked at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But you were growing up." He nodded. "Yes, and you never let yourself grow with me." Her face crumpled. "I'm tired," she whispered. "I'm tired of forcing everything to stay the same. I'm tired of trying to hold on to a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. And I'm tired of you hurting her," he said gently. She turned to me again. "I want to do better, if you'll let me." My breath shook as I exhaled. I thought about last night, about the pain, the humiliation, the years of comments, criticisms, little cuts that accumulated until they felt like wounds. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed her, but healing was something I owed myself. "I'm not asking for us to pretend nothing happened," I said quietly. "But if you want to rebuild, that starts with respect and honesty and boundaries." She nodded without hesitation. "I'm ready." Ethan exhaled, relief washing over him like warm water. We talked for a long time, not shouting, not pretending, just talking. With truth, for the first time. She admitted things I never expected her to. Ethan shared things he had never dared to say. And I realized that the only way any of us could move forward was by stepping into the discomfort instead of avoiding it. Eventually, she stood up and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned to me. "Thank you," she whispered. When she left, the house felt strangely light, as if a storm had passed and the air finally cleared. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "That was huge," he murmured. "It was," I said softly. "Are you okay?" I leaned into him. "I think, for the first time in a long time, I am." He kissed my cheek. "I promise you our marriage will never be a battlefield again." I turned to face him. "We both need to protect it. Together," he nodded. Together. Over the next weeks, something unexpected happened. His mother changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but genuinely. She apologized to my parents. She began to include me in conversations without sarcasm. She asked questions about my job, my family, my interests, not to judge, but to understand. She even asked for my mac and cheese recipe. Slowly, we became something I never imagined possible, a family. Not because everything became perfect, but because everything finally became honest. And I realized something profound. Sometimes truth destroys what was never real, so that what is real can finally grow. That Thanksgiving, painful as it was, became the turning point we didn't know we needed. It taught us that relationships, marriages, families, all of them can only survive when people let go of illusions and step into what is real. When they stop controlling and start connecting. When they stop fearing change and allow themselves to grow with it. It taught me that dignity is non-negotiable. That staying silent to keep the peace only creates deeper chaos. And that sometimes, the moment everything falls apart is the moment everything finally falls into place. And if sharing this story helps even one person feel less alone or gives someone the courage to stand up for themselves or their marriage, then it was worth telling. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need them. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this story resonated with you, you can support the channel by buying me a coffee. The link is in the description. Your kindness keeps this community growing. Thank you for listening.